All right, everybody, we are back with another video. And what I'm going to do, probably for this video and maybe a few others after this, is just highlight some of my PC or personal collection, just so that you have an idea of some of the stuff that I've been able to accumulate over the last, I'd say 5 years or so. Initially started collecting cards when I was in maybe fourth grade, early 80s, so it kind of dates me there. But got into it pretty heavily around that time and did it all the way through the time I went off to college in 89. And stopped at that point in time. And about 5 years ago, my mom called me and asked what I wanted to do with all these cards that were in a couple of boxes in the basement at their house. And I was kind of surprised, like, oh my gosh, there actually are some cards that have been kept all these years. So we had a good time, me and the boys, going through the box and seeing what was there. Nothing too crazy in value from that time frame that I had anyway, because a lot of them were 86, 87, 88, 89. So not like I said, a whole lot of value in that junk era, but did have a fun time going through the box. So what I was what it kind of did at that point in time, I guess you could say, is it got me back into collecting. And at the time, really wanted to get my kids into it as well. So we got into the newer stuff. They really enjoy a lot of the newer releases out there from Topps. We get a little bit of the Panini and some of the other things, but mostly Topps type products. And you can see in some of the other videos we've done, we've done quite a few hobby boxes over the years, and they really like to pull those parallels and short prints and autos, and when we can get them, for all different types of products through the Top series and Bowman. But myself personally, I try to kind of go back to the old days and do a lot more on the vintage side. So I've been able to accumulate a good amount of vintage cards and started to get some of those graded as well. Some of them I've bought graded and came into possession of them graded, but a lot of them are not. But I'm going to kind of highlight some of the graded vintage cards that I've got in my collection, just so that you guys can see them and I can at least share them out there with all of you. So I'm going to try to go through it pretty quickly, and I apologize for the angle on this box, but it's a little tough to get the angle unless I zoom out like that. And I'm just going to go through some of these graded vintage cards that I've got in my collection. So I'm going to grab what would be, I guess, your pre-war vintage cards, and that would be starting here with I guess it says E90 on the SGC label. I guess that would be something other than your T206. I thought it was a T206, but maybe that's you guys, if you know a little bit more about those sets from that era, you can tell me what the difference is between the E90s and the T206. But this one is right around that same time frame, and it's a Bill Bailey, and the backing is American Caramel. So that kind of gives you an idea of one of the earliest ones I've got. This one I think would have graded a little bit higher than a pour, maybe a 1.5 or 2, if not for that pinhole at the top. You can see there that looks like it was kind of ripped as well. But it's cool to have anything at that level. Actually, there's a pinhole in the bottom as well. But it's just nice to have anything in that time frame. And you can see the back real quick. Like I said, American Caramel Company was the backing. So that's one of the earlier ones. This one here, real quick, is not even baseball related, but I picked that up, I think, at a card show. Just like the card, it was from one of those hand cut. I don't know what they would call them. There's a name for it, but they were on a spool, and maybe the candy shops and whatnot would kind of rip them off, perforate them. They weren't really perforated, I don't think, but you would kind of cut them off as people would come in and maybe buy bubble gum or whatever it was. But that's one at the bottom, it actually says running for cover. And just because I was able to figure that out, kind of put it out there for grading, and it came back as an authentic 1920s WUNC. So I really need to look more into that, figure out what that is, but kind of cool. So that's another one in the early days. I've got a T205 of Freddie Parent. That one came out actually a little bit better as a 2. Good. Still has a pretty good sheen when it comes to that gold that was around those T205s. Nice card. The backing is Hassan backing, so it kind of gives you a little bit there. And it actually had his stats there for 08, 09, and it looks like a 2010 as well. So kind of a neat one. Then I step up to, I don't even know if we consider these cards more than photos maybe at the time, but this is of Hall of Famer Al Simmons, a Cash-In Publications card from 1929. And I apologize, I've got all these in these protective graded card sleeves, so it's not really doing the cards a whole lot of justice, but I don't want to take each one of them out and go through. That would take forever. But that's a kind of a nice one. I know that would have come out a lot better than a 1.5, if not for at the very bottom here, which I really wasn't paying attention at the time, but there is a pinhole down here in the next to his shoe. It's just much more evident if you flip it over and look at the back of it here, where you can see where it's quite noticeable. So those are ones from the 1910s and 20s. Now moving on up to the 30s, we've got a couple of 34 Gaudis. This one is Irvin Pete Fox, a SGC 60. So these are based off the old labels. The ones I just showed you, like Parent, are the new labels where they kind of look more like PSA with a 2 grade, like a 1 to 10. This is when SGC used to grade these on a 1 to 100, and they changed that in the last few years. So this is an older label, but still, that kind of compares maybe to a PSA 5. So a 1934 Gaudi and a 5, not a bad deal. So you can see that there. You can see the back, how they look in the back of those cards. Also have a 34 Arndt Jorgens, and that one came out as a 55. So you're looking at a 55, or which correlates to maybe an PSA 4.5. So you can see as well, that one's actually looks almost even in better shape than the 60, but that's kind of cool, especially the fact that we're Yankee fans and this is his card as a Yankee. So those are the ones that I've got for pre-war. But moving on up the line is going into post-war, and I'll grab the front part of this here, which is my favorite of all of my vintage graded cards, and that would be my 1951 rookie card of the man, Willie Mays. So that one, like I said, is the favorite of all of my vintage collection. Actually was able to obtain that from an online break that I participated in, and got really lucky to get a nice card there. It's graded authentic, altered, and the reason is, if you look on the left side, it's kind of hard to tell from this video, but on the left side it looks like somebody at one point in time had tried to trim that card. It was a while ago, because it does not look any bit fresh on that left side, but outside of that, you're not going to find much of anything blemished on this card at all. Just a little bit of surface, I guess you can call it surface removal there, right on the line of the border, and then in the upper right hand corner outside the border, which I don't know if it's going to focus in there well or not on it, but that's really about all you're going to find. It's not going to do it. There it is. That's really about all you're going to find wrong with this card. The back is just super clean as well. So it's just one of my favorite in my whole collection. So there you have my Willie Mays. Also down the line, a 52 Bowman of Billy Goodman. That's a 4. And then I move up to probably one of the most iconic sets of the vintage era, and that would be your 1952 Topps. So I'll run through my graded 52s. If I guess there's probably, I don't know, maybe about 12 to 15 of those. But number one, these I think are going to be in number order. So you got Ferris Fane, VG3. We've got Gil Hodges in a VG3. That's a nice car. I like that. We've got Tommy Glaviano in a 6. So some of these I've just had just from purchasing 52s. Like I said, I think I've mentioned in another video, I like to find some of the ungraded 52s. If I think that they've got some potential for some higher grades, I'll pick them up and send them off for grading. And this is one of those ones that I found that ends up with a 6. So really cool there. Kind of work on down the line. I've got a Ed Lopat. That's only come out as a 2, so that's a good 2, and I think it's because of that corner. A lot of corner wear and even corner missing in that particular card. And some of these are black backs, some of them are red backs. All those right there are all black backs. Any of you guys who collect the 52s know there's a couple of different backs that you'll find these cards in. This one here came out as a 5. Probably would have done even better if not for that. I guess it's an ink dropper print mark there on the yellow. That one is Bob Kennedy. Came out as a 5. And that's also black back. Got Ted Gray, a 5. That one is a red back. So you can see, not like the other one I just showed you, the black back. This one's got a red back. Every one of these here are going to be in a lot of these, Gil Hodges and some of those others aside, are more of your common cards, but they are all low numbers and nothing from the Mickey Mantle card, 311 on up. So these are going to be more of your common set. But I'm trying to trying to build something in the graded set. I don't know if I'll ever come close to getting 3/4 of this done, but I just want to start getting as many of these as I can in the graded state. So Paul Minner here from the Cubs, that is only a good. So at some point maybe upgrade something like that. But still a 52 nonetheless. We've got Johnny Mize in a 3. So that's a good one there. I've got Bill Nicholson in a 4. That's a cool one. And then we've got Ralph Houck in a 4.5. So I think that was one, if I'm not mistaken, that's one I may have purchased and sent off for grading. Came back as a 4.5. I've got Hank Bauer as a 4. I think I even have his 56 in here too. So that's kind of a nice one. Red back. So we're flipping back and forth between reds. I think the reds may have been even further along. Like the earlier cards up to a certain number could be black or red. Then it goes to red. Then I think it stays red. I'm not sure. 4.5. Willard Nixon. Very good. Excellent plus. Sheen on these cards are still pretty solid. I mean, the surface is nice. We've got a Jim Wilson 4. And you can see pretty good sheen on that. Most of these are going to be, I would say, corner issues, edge issues, which is obviously very common on those 52 cards. And then finally, I've got a Tommy Holmes. Now, I know this one was one that I found and submitted, because if I'm getting 5s back on my 52s, generally speaking, it'll have been a decent investment, because I can actually, if I decide to sell those that I pick up raw and end up getting 5s on them, I'm usually going to do pretty well. So in this one I saw, I'm like, this one's probably a 5, and it came back as a 5, so that was good. So there's the 52s. And going on down the line, I'll go finish out the 50s here with, let's see here. We've got some 155. I don't have more than, actually, I've got a couple of 55s. One of them's going to be really cool. You'll see that in just a second. You probably already saw it from behind there. Joe Cunningham, PSA 2. So that didn't, not the highest of grades, but it is a 55. But here's the big one. This is probably my second favorite vintage card, and that would be the Sandy Koufax rookie. So there you have a 1955 Koufax 4.5 SGC. And that is based on the newer label, so that's kind of correlates with your PSAs. So just a pretty awesome card to have. So that's your Sandy Koufax. And moving on down the line, we got 56s. We got Dean Stone. We've got Don Kaiser. Well, Dean Stone was a 6. Kaiser is a 6. We got Red Shane Diced. Hall of Famer, by the way. That is also a 6. That's one that I got, and you'll see if you watch some of the previous videos. Got that in a online auction and sent that off for grading, and that came back in the range I was hoping maybe get a little bit better, but I'll take a 6 on that. We've got Hank Bauer again. He saw his 52 a second ago. We got him in a 6 in 1956. Billy Kloss in a 7. So there's my best grade in probably any of those 52 to 56 cards. A 7 is a nice grade for a 56 card. Got one more in the 50s, and that would be a Preston Ward 6. So that gives you the 50s are kind of filled out there. Moving on down the line to the 60s. Just grab all my 60s here, which are starting off with none other than Billy Martin. So this is a 1960 Billy Martin, PSA 5. So that's pretty cool. Kind of gives you an idea of his stat line, which I'm not sure what season he was at that point in time, but probably it looks like moving along in his career at that point. But still a Billy Martin nonetheless. Cool card. Then I move up to Hall of Famer Roberto Clemente, one of my favorite players of all time. This is a 1961 in a PSA 4. So really, really like that card. That I think is one that I've had since probably 89. I think this is one that I had when I was kind of ending out my collecting and started to really get into the idea of having some older vintage, even in the 80s. But I was able to pick up a few cards back then, and I got maybe two or three others that are from back when I was originally collecting, and this was one of them. So there's your 61 Clemente. We also have Lou Brock. This is, I believe, it's his rookie card, a 1962 Lou Brock. That is actually a PSA 5, so pretty good shape on that one as well. It's not focusing in as well as I would hope it would. There it goes. So you go, that wood grain, you can always tell those 62s by that wood grain with that little flip up on the bottom right. And then we move along to a 1963 Roger Maris PSA 4. So there you have another one, another solid, player from that era. And in fact, I don't think it was it was not the year that he beat out Ruth's record. I think that was in 61 when he got the 61 homers, but still right around that time frame. So pretty cool card. And then I got another Sandy Koufax, Showed you his rookie a second ago. This is a 1964 Koufax in the old SGC label, a SGC 60. So that's kind of more along at PSA 5. Really like that card too. Then we move on to a 1964. This is a top stand-up. Like you can pop those cards out, or you could have back in the day. What is that? That mark on the front is not on the card. That thing there is actually in between the holder and the, you can see it moving around. So that's not on the card. So that came out as a 7. I thought it might have a better shot at something even greater than that, but it came out as a 7, which is fine. But it was because of this. You can see on the back, I wasn't even thinking that that wax that built up on the back of that was probably going to cause some issues. And so it came back as a 7 ST, ST meaning stain. So that thing's bugging me, so get that off of there. 7 ST stain. I'll take it. I was hoping to get something without a qualifier on it, but, you know, that's pretty cool. Joe Torre, 64, top stand-up. We've got a Whitey Ford. PSA 5 from 1967. So that one there is, there we go, the focus on that. It's pretty cool. We've got Joe Torre again, 1967 and a 5. Then I get into my Killebrews. I have a 68 Killebrew and a 7. I don't know why, but I always seem to end up with his cards. I do like him as a player, and his cards are pretty cool. So there's this, and I'm seem to be getting pretty decent grades on his cards. So there's a 7 and a Killebrew for 68, and then an iconic card, your Reggie Jackson rookie in a 5. So we have a PSA 5, Reggie Jackson 1969. So I'll try to get that a little bit better focus there. And like I said, I'm not going to, it would be a lot better probably quality as far as being able to see these and not all the reflection of the graded card sleeves, but I want to take not as much time to do that. So you got Reggie's rookie card. So that's kind of cool. Going into the 70s, I've got a Harmon Killebrew 1970, also in a 7. So I was actually pulled that from an online break and got that graded, came out as a 7. So it's kind of a nice one there. And then to kind of fill out the rest of these, the rest of these are going to be 70s. I'll go through these real quick. Pull up everything from 70 to 73. We've got a Steve Garvey. I believe that is his rookie, is it not? It doesn't say his rookie, but maybe I thought it was his rookie card. It doesn't really. Maybe it is. I'm not quite sure. But that's a 71 Steve Garvey and a 5, and those are always hard to get good grades on because of the way these edges on those black borders really get chipped away pretty quickly. So it's either first or second year Garvey card. Then we move into 72, where I've got a 72 Willie Mays in action, PSA 4. Got that from an online auction. Had that sent out to be graded. We've got a 72 AL home run leaders card in a 9. So that one just missed the coveted 10. It's got Reggie Jackson on there, so that's a cool one. Boy, that would have been real nice to pull that off in a 10, but I'll take a 9 on that all day long. So that's kind of nice to get something that high a grade that early on. 72 Bob Gibson, Hall of Famer, in a 7. So in a near mint 7 for Gibson, 72. I've got a Orlando Cepeda, 1972, and a 7 as well. Got Orlando. I've got Hank Aaron, actually in an 8 for 72. However, it says OC. As you can tell, pretty far off center. left to right. Very little white on this side, a lot of white on that side. So yeah, I guess that's guilty of a qualifier, but an OC8, I'll take it on a Hank Aaron, and then I go back to Roberto Clemente again. So I got a 73 Clemente in a 4.5. Pretty pumped about that one too. We got Rod Carew in a 73 near mint 7. And then kind of going through the rest of these real quick. These are going to be ones from mid 70s to late 70s. So we got Thurman Munson. That to me is just a great card. I mean, I love Thurman, one of my all-time favorites as well. In an 8. So we got 74 Thurman Munson in an 8. There you go. A little bit better clarity there. We've got Thurman Munson 75, also in an 8. And then, well, I'll just go ahead and show you that one first before the rest of them. Thurman Munson 78 in a 9. So I got 74 in an 8, 75 in an 8, 78 in a 9. Now this was the year he died. I believe it was in August of 78. He did have a 1979 card. I don't think I've got that, or at least not graded anyway. So that was his final card, but this was his the year this card came out was the year that he passed away in the plane crash. So then we got 1978. There's the coveted Eddie Murray 78 card in an 8. So not too bad. Obviously not the 10 that everybody is out there trying to get, but I'll take that in an 8 all day long. We've got Dennis Eckersley in an 8, 78. Mike Schmidt in an 8, 78. Vida Blue in an 8, 78. And then that's basically it. I have some other sports here. Let me make sure I don't have any. Oh, we got a few more baseball. Keep this to baseball. Of course, I got some rookies in there. We got a nice Namath. Show you that real quick. Joe Namath in 72 9 OC. I was hoping I could pull off a 9 without the OC. That would have been really cool. But the other final two baseballs, we got a Cal Ripken 82 Fleer in a 7. And the famous Tony Gwynn rookie 83 in an 8. I was hoping I could pull off a 9 on that one, but unfortunately that came back as an 8. So there you have it. Some of the vintage, even getting into the early 80s, I guess it's kind of funny. When I first started collecting, those are considered essentially vintage at this point. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give us a like and give us a subscription, and we will see you soon. Take care.